The camera in my office wasn't supposed to be recording that night. It was a leftover setting from a security audit, a silent eye in the corner I forgot to turn off. If I had, I might have kept my marriage, my partner, and my innocence. Instead, I pressed play and watched my wife kiss the man who had shaken my hand every morning for 8 years. My wife. My business partner. In my office. I didn't knock. I didn't rush in. I let the video run until the last goodbye, until the lights went out and the screen turned into my reflection, a man unmade. Then I rewound it, watched again, and this time I didn't feel shock. I felt a calmer, colder thing take root. Some men cry. Some beg. I make lists. My name is Ethan Cole, co-founder and CEO of Northbridge Logistics, a company I built in a rented warehouse with a coil of extension cords and a spreadsheet no bank would loan against. The other name on the founding papers is Adam Pierce, older by 12 years, charming, photogenic, liked by board members and waiters alike. He brought contacts, I brought grind. For years, we were a good equation. My wife, Victoria, Vicky to everyone but me, met Adam at one of our early investor dinners. She laughed at his jokes, but she always came home with me. I believed in those small facts the way sailors once believed in stars. I was wrong. On the recording, they didn't just kiss. They strategized. Adam said he'd moved 2 flagship clients into a new entity he was spinning up. A clean shell with dirty motives. Vicky promised to keep Ethan calm while the transfer happened. She said I was married to the company more than to her. Adam said, then let him keep the marriage. They laughed. I pressed pause on their laughter. Then I opened my notebook and wrote 2 columns. What they took. My trust. My marriage. My partner. 2 anchor accounts, unnamed but obvious. My sleep. What I will take. Their money. Their positions. Their family's respect. Their friends. Each other. I added one more line beneath. The ending will be mine. The next morning I went to work at 6, as usual. I made coffee in the break room. I answered emails. I called the driver to check on a delayed shipment. When Adam arrived, he gave me that perfect Pierce smile. Early as always, E. Someone has to be, I said. I spent the day collecting. Not evidence for the police, not yet. Evidence for leverage. Contracts, side letters, board minutes, every email thread where Adam had positioned himself as the relational partner while I was.
She said.
He'd left fingerprints everywhere because men like him believe charm is
I didn't
solvent.
mean to hurt you.
It isn't.
Didn't mean to hurt me.
Paper is.
Then why keep
By
it
noon
secret?
I texted Noah Patel,
While out of my face,
oldest friend
every time
and the
I
only
asked.
person who's seen me at my
She
worst
told me she
and
still
stayed
cared
anyway.
about me.
Noah is a
That it was
forensic accountant,
complicated.
quiet, meticulous,
That I was a good guy,
allergic
but
to
she
drama,
wasn't ready.
a surgeon with numbers.
I've heard it all before.
He came by after hours,
But this time,
peered into
it
the corner
burned
camera,
deeper.
and said, "You going
Because
to make
I
me
had
watch
trusted
that?
her with the parts of me
I'm going to make
I
you help me
usually
fix
hide."
it." I said,
And she gave them away
He
like they
nodded
meant
once.
nothing.
"All right.
I didn't yell.
You'll need a clean
Didn't
archive,
cry.
a shadow ledger,
I simply opened
and a
the door
firewall
and
between
told her
you
to
and
leave.
every accusation Adam will
She
invent
stood there
once he
for a
realizes
second.
you're not his fool."
As if expecting
I
me
was
to
his
fight
friend.
for her.
I said,
To beg.
Noah's eyebrows
But I
tilted.
didn't.
Pity or warning?
Because I finally
couldn't tell.
understood.
Start with board
If
math.
someone loves you,
How many votes to
they don't
remove
treat
him?
you like an option.
4 of 7.
I blocked her
said,
number,
I have 2,
Erase the
maybe
photos.
3 if I can pry Ross away.
deleted the chats.
Then go pry.
But the
I
hurt,
didn't confront Vicky.
that stayed
That
for a while.
surprises people when I tell them
Not
later.
because I missed her,
They picture cinematic
but because I
scenes,
missed the person
shouting,
I thought she was.
broken glass, apologies
It's been a few
screamed
months
into the
now.
night. But
And I still
confrontation
catch
gives
myself
the other side a
remembering her
script.
laugh.
Silence gives
But
you
now
options.
it doesn't sting as much.
At home I was the same man.
Because I know the
quieter,
truth.
maybe. Vicky
chose
tested
him.
the water the way you test a
She
sore
chose
tooth.
lies.
Long day?
She chose to walk
look
away
tired.
from something honest.
Don't forget dinner with my parents
And I?
Sunday.
I chose
parents.
peace.
There was a line
chose
item on my
healing.
list for them.
You
I
chose me
kissed her
Zev.
forehead, told her I
And
loved
next
the
time,
roast, and washed
I'll
dishes
choose
while she
better.
scrolled.
Contact.
When she went to bed,
When
I
I
stayed at
asked
the
her
table
directly,
with spreadsheet light on my face
she just
until the numbers
froze.
stopped blurring.
and then
Then I
she
slept
whispered,
on the couch and told myself
I didn't
it was
mean for it
because
to
I
happen.
didn't want to wake her.
My
Cowardice
chest went
or
hollow.
strategy. Sometimes they look
She
the
told
same.
me everything.
Phase 1 had 3
That
pillars.
it started as harmless
Contain the
flirting.
business.
That
Isolate
one
the
night
traitors.
turned into a secret.
Own the narrative.
That
For
guilt
the business,
ate at her.
I needed a
but
lawyer
not enough
who
to
didn't
stop.
wilt around polished men.
I felt sick.
I called Amara Davis,
I went to Rachel's
a
place
partner
later
at
that
Kessler
night.
and Lowell, whose reputation is
She
built
didn't
on
deny
2
it.
things: immaculate
Didn't even
filings
look
and
surprised.
the inability to be intimidated.
Just said, I didn't
I
want to
met
hurt
her in
you.
a glass conference room that
Funny how
reminded me
people
too much
say
of
that
my
after
own.
they've already shattered you.
Conflict? I asked.
I
She
left
glanced at the
without
intake
another
sheet.
word.
We've never
No yelling
represented
that, no
Pierce
begging.
personally. We've
Just
handled
silence.
procurement disputes for Northbridge.
Because sometimes
You're
silence
the
says
client of
more than
record on
pain
those.
ever could.
Good enough.
I blocked them
I
both.
slid a thumb drive across
Deleted
the table.
photos.
Everything you
Erased
need to understand
conversations.
where we are and where we're going.
But the memories,
She didn't touch it.
they
Tell me
stay.
instead.
Not
So
because
I
I
told
miss
her.
them,
Not about
but
the
because
kiss.
betrayal
Not
leaves
yet,
scars
but
you
about
don't see.
side entities Adam had set up.
The hardest
For
part
tax
wasn't
efficiency.
losing Rachel.
The way he kept client
It was losing
relationships
Ava.
off platform. The rumors
10
he
years
fed
of
the board
friendship
about my
gone.
operational blind
Like it meant
spots,
nothing.
while I bled
But
quietly
pain
for the
teaches
company.
you things.
When I finished,
It
Amara
teaches
took
you
the
who
drive.
people really are.
You want to remove
And
him,
who you
seize
are
control
when
of
everything
client
falls
contracts,
apart.
and inoculate the board against his
It's been
inevitable
months.
smear.
And
Yes.
I'm healing.
And you want to do it without
Not perfectly,
scorched
but
earth.
honestly.
For now.
I smile
For now.
again.
I said.
I sleep
She
peacefully.
smiled the way a surgeon smiles
Because I
when
know
you
now.
sign consent.
The people
Then we
meant to
start
love
with
you.
governance.
Don't
Who
leave
actually
cracks
owns
in
your
your
company?
soul.
And who
They don't
thinks
lie.
they do?
They don't
Phase
betray.
1, Pillar 2,
They
isolate the
stay.
traitors.
And one
That
day,
meant family and friends.
someone
the
will
easy
stay.
networks people never
But
realize
until then,
hold them up until you pull them away.
I stay with
I
myself.
didn't fabricate.
And that
I
I've
didn't
learned.
need to. Truth
is
is
enough.
heavier than rumor when you stack it properly. For Vicky's parents, I built a careful package, timelines of her absences, bank transfers she had explained as self-care, that led to hotels, screenshots of Adam's calendar blocked at the same times. I did not include the video. Some truths crush the innocent more than the guilty. I sent the package anonymously. The return address was silence. For Adam's wife, Elena, I did the opposite. I called her. We've never been close. Adam liked to keep his world separate, but I remembered her kindness at holiday parties, the way she'd ask about my mother's health and actually listen to the answer. Ethan? She said, surprised. I'm sorry, I said, and meant it. There's something you need to see. I won't send it by email. I'll bring it to you. Whatever you choose to do after, it's yours. She let me in. I placed the drive on her dining table and turned my face away while the video played on her laptop. When the sound filled the room, my wife's voice, Adam's laugh, Elena pressed her knuckles to her mouth, then stood up so fast her chair skated on tile. Get out, she whispered, eyes bright with a heat I recognized in my own bones. I'm sorry, I said again. I left my card. If you need a lawyer, call Amara Davis. Tell her I'll cover your retainer. I don't need your money, she said. I know, I said. But you'll need a lawyer. The door shut behind me like a verdict. Phase 1, Pillar 3, own the narrative. Boardrooms aren't courts, they're theaters. Whoever frames the play wins the vote. Ross, the maybe vote, liked golf and flattery in equal measure. I booked a tea time and showed up early. Ross arrived late, as always, smiling behind mirrored lenses. We played 3 holes without speaking about anything but his swing. On the 4th tee box, he said, I hear concerns about concentration risk on accounts Adam brought in. Concentration risk happens when one man hoards control, I said. He sliced into the bunker. You talking about Adam? I'm talking about survival. I handed him a clean ball. If he pulls those clients to a new venture, what happens to your equity? Ross looked at the ball, then at me. You have proof he's spinning up something? I have enough to make you nervous, I said. And I'll have enough to make you safe. He didn't answer right away. On the 9th green, he tapped in a bogey inside. I liked you better before you learned how to play this game, Ethan. I liked my life better before I had to, I said. He nodded once. You get me the packet by Friday. If it looks like you say, I'll be your 4th vote. I didn't exhale until I was alone in the parking lot. Then I called Amara. Board packet by Friday, I said. Already drafting, she replied. Also, Elena Pierce just retained me. Brace. For what? For Adam learning what we know the worst way possible. At home, the fissures began to show, microscopic hairlines that spidered outward with each passing day. Vicky was distracted, texts she hid, showers that ran longer, apologies offered preemptively for nothing specific. On Thursday, she said, My mom wants to move Sunday dinner to next week. She's not feeling well. Of course she wasn't. Tell her I hope she feels better, I said. I paused, then added, Tell her I'm thinking of her. Vicky didn't meet my eyes. Okay. That night I lay awake and let anger run behind my ribs like a train that never stops. I counted backwards from 100 and still couldn't sleep. At 3 a.m., I went to my office and watched the video again, not to punish myself, but to remind myself why the plan mattered. Hate burns out. Discipline doesn't. Friday came like a blade. Amara's board packet was brutal in its restraint: governance diagrams, contract analyses, risk memos on client centralization, a section politely titled, "Potential Unauthorized Competing Entity." That might as well have been a criminal complaint. The genius of it was tone. No histrionics. Just facts stacked into a staircase leading to one conclusion: Adam had to go. At 10:07 a.m., I pressed send to the board list. At 10:12, Ross replied, "Received." At 10:21, 2 other directors chimed in with questions. At 10:24, Adam forwarded the packet to his personal Gmail and didn't realize IT still mirrored exfiltration activity to a compliance inbox Noah had quietly set up on Monday. At 10:31, Elena filed for temporary separation. At 10:36, she emailed Adam a single sentence: "You did this to yourself." At 11:02, Vicky texted me, "Lunch today?" At 11:03, I wrote back, swamped. "Rain check?" At 11:04, she replied, "Sure, red heart." I stared at the heart and felt nothing. We scheduled the emergency board meeting for Tuesday. That gave Adam the weekend to scramble, time I wanted him to have so he'd make mistakes confident men make when they're desperate. On Saturday morning, he called me with forced cheer. "Big packet yesterday. Little dramatic, don't you think?" "Governance isn't drama," I said. "It's arithmetic. Come on, E." He laughed in that magazine profile way. "You know relationships drive this company. Not charts." "You're right," I said. "Relationships do." He waited for me to add, "and you're great at them." I didn't. After a beat too long, he said, "Let's grab a drink. Clear the air." "Can't," I said. "I have dinner with Vicky's parents." Silence. Then, strained casual. "Give them my best." "Oh, Adam," I said softly, and let the pity in my voice be a blade. "You should give it yourself." I hung up. Then I set my phone down and let my hands shake for exactly 30 seconds. When the timer in my head hit half a minute, I picked them up again steady. Sunday dinner did not happen. Vicky told me her parents were still unwell. I nodded. Then my phone buzzed with a message from an unknown number. "Ethan, this is Helen Whitmore, Vicky's mother. I would appreciate a conversation." Alone. We met at a park bench the next afternoon. Helen arrived with eyes that had cried too recently to be anything but real. She held herself like someone refusing to drown. "I didn't want to believe it," she said without greeting. "I told myself it was stress or gossip. But the dates, the hotel receipts. God." She swallowed. "I'm so sorry." "You don't owe me an apology," I said. "I owe you the truth," she replied. "Victoria will not find sympathy in our house. Her father, he hasn't spoken since last night. He adored you." I stared at the pond where a couple of ducks quarreled over nothing. "Adoration fades," I said. "Respect shouldn't." Helen nodded slowly. "What are you going to do?" "I'm going to finish what I started." "And then?" I thought of the second column in my notebook, what I will take. And beneath it, a blank space I hadn't known how to fill. "Then I'll decide who I am when I'm not the man they betrayed." Helen reached out, hesitated, then touched my sleeve like a blessing. "I hope that man is kinder than the world has been to you." When she left, I sat there a while and let the wind take the last of the warmth from the day. Tuesday, 8 a.m. The boardroom felt colder than usual. Glass walls, long table, the framed award for Most Innovative Supply Partner 20XX. That Adam had insisted we hang where visitors could see it. He came in at 8:02 with a lawyer I didn't recognize and a smile that looked stapled to his face. We did the formalities. We approved minutes. We pretended for 10 minutes that we weren't about to throw a man out of a company he thought he could pocket. Then Amara, calm as winter, walked through the packet. She didn't raise her voice. She didn't need to. The numbers did the shouting. Adam's lawyer objected on tone, on timing, on mischaracterizations. Amara responded with footnotes. Ross asked 2 surgical questions that made it clear he'd read every page. The chair, who'd always preferred Adam's charisma to my quiet, looked at me like she was seeing a map the first time after getting lost by instinct. When the vote came, it wasn't close. 4 to remove, 2 against, 1 abstention that might as well have been shame. Adam stood, pushed his chair back too hard, and smiled at me with his teeth. Congratulations, Ethan. You've just tied your own noose. Those clients were here for me. Then they'll enjoy meeting the man who's been doing their actual work, I said. We looked at each other across 8 years of history. I felt the urge to say something generous, some benediction for the corpse of our partnership. I killed the urge. As he left, his phone buzzed. He glanced down. Whatever he saw on the screen drained the blood from his face. Later, I'd learn Elena had filed not just separation but asset freeze. He would call Vicky after, and she would not pick up. She'd be at her mother's, where sympathy had been replaced with a careful, cold distance that hurts more than anger. Phase 1 was complete, the business contained, the traders isolated, the narrative ours. That night, alone in my house, I poured 2 fingers of bourbon and opened my notebook to a fresh page. At the top I wrote, Phase 2, take everything they thought was theirs. Clients. Reputation. The story they tell about themselves. Each other. I underlined the last one. Then I added a line I hadn't allowed myself before. Phase 3, build something better. For me. I closed the book and, for the first time in weeks, slept in my bed. Phase 1 ended in a vote. Phase 2 began with a calendar. I filled it with names that used to sit neatly in Adam's phone, people who took his calls on the first ring, people who loved his dinners and his stories and the easy way he made a room revolve around him. If he was going to steal our clients, I would get there before him and tell the truth first. Not the tabloid truth. The operational one. The first call was to Huxley Home Goods, Langford Huxley himself, a gentleman cut from old fabric, blunt, punctual, allergic to fluff. Mr. Cole, he said, when his assistant patched me through. I assumed I'd be hearing from Pierce. You are, I said. Indirectly. A beat. You've removed him. The board has, I said. And I'm here to make sure you're not punished for our housekeeping. Langford liked verbs. I gave him all the ones that mattered. We talked capacity, redundancy, the new dock scheduling software we piloted with a Midwestern chain and never bothered to sell as a solution. We talked driver retention and cold chain failure rates. I did not once say Adam's name. When I finished, Langford said, Send a written SLA with the redundancies you just described. If it reads the way you speak, my trucks stay where they are. By noon, I said. Noon, he repeated like a test and hung up. By 11:34 the signed addendum was in my inbox. The first domino didn't fall. It anchored. The second meeting was harder. Helios Retail loved glow, press releases, ribbon cuttings, influencers who pronounced logistics like a lifestyle. Their COO, Cassandra Hale, had always been fond of Adam's charm because charm photographs better than a warehouse. I didn't bring slides. I brought Noah. Cassandra welcomed us into a conference room that smelled like eucalyptus and new carpet. She played at small talk. I didn't. You want to know whether Northbridge can deliver on a holiday ramp without Pierce? I said. Let me show you who always delivered with him. I nodded to Noah. He opened a thin binder, paper, not pixels, and walked through a year of Helios operations, peak curves, exception handling, vendor-side failures that we ate without a press release. He was precise, almost boring. It was the point. Boredom is a virtue in our world. When he finished, I said, You liked Adam's stories. These are the ones that kept your shelves from being empty. Cassandra studied me, then Noah. You're asking me to trust the man behind the curtain. I'm asking you to look at the curtain and notice who stitched it. I said. If you want color, you'll find a dozen men to paint it. If you want certainty, you call me. She didn't smile. Good. Draft a comms line we can use if your transition becomes public. Nothing snide, nothing that invites questions. If I like it, we stay. I sent it that afternoon. Helios remains confident in Northbridge's operational leadership and service continuity. It said everything while saying almost nothing. She approved it. We locked in their Q4 ramp the next morning. 2 pillars of revenue stood where Adam had assumed there would be rubble. Back at the office, the staff watched me like you watch a bridge during an earthquake. We'd grown to 200 employees, most of whom had only seen me in steel-toe boots during peak season. When a company's face changes, people search it for fear. I gathered them in the loading bay because that's where our truths always lived. No stage. No spotlight. Just a pallet jack as a lectern and the smell of old cardboard. You've heard rumors. I began. Here's what's not a rumor. You made every on-time delivery we promised last quarter. You got paid on time. Our clients have been told what I'm telling you now. Operations win. That's you? This company is you. We aren't changing course. We're cutting dead weight. A few heads turned instinctively toward the glass offices. I pretended not to notice. If you need anything from me, you get it. If you hear anyone telling a story that makes you nervous, bring it to my desk. I'll tell you whether to worry. Otherwise, do the job only you know how to do. I didn't ask for applause. I just dismissed them and stayed until the last forklift beeped its way into the dark. Adam, of course, couldn't resist the stage. By midweek, he had a new name filed, Peercrest Supply, and a list of advisors. That read like a LinkedIn fever dream. He called clients and told them I was in over my head, that the operations guy didn't understand relationships, that we were weeks away from strategic realignment. He rented a WeWork suite and tried to look like momentum. Momentum hit the asset freeze Elena had secured like a bird hits a glass door. Banks don't open credit lines for men in litigation with their former companies and wives. Vendors don't extend terms to a logo and a smile. Advisors don't show up when there's nothing to bill. He still had his voice, though. Charm lives on fumes. He used it on Vicky. I learned that from Helen, who called me 3 days after the board meeting. He's been texting her, she said, voice clipped. Telling her you've spun a web, that she's the only one who can tell his side. What did she say? I asked. She said nothing to us, Helen replied. But she left the house at midnight. I am not a fool, Ethan. I know where she went. Do you want me to? No, Helen said hard. I want you to finish your work. We will do ours. I thanked her. I meant it. Finishing my work required something blunt, an injunction. Amara filed for it Friday morning, narrow and surgical, no solicitation of our employees, no use of confidential information, no contacting clients under contract about a competing service. It was the opposite of drama, which is why the judge liked it. Temporary order granted. Hearing set. Adam's lawyer called Amara. Amara didn't return the call. She sent service by a man who looked like he could deadlift a sedan and smile while he did it. By afternoon, Adam posted a vague missive on social media about founders' rights and corporate bullies. It drew 36 comments from people who like to be near crisis because crisis makes them feel important. It drew exactly 0 new clients. I went home, cooked eggs, and ate standing up because chairs made me feel anchored and I didn't want to be anchored to that kitchen. Vicky wasn't there. I slept anyway. He didn't come at me directly for a while after that. He went sideways, as men do when the front door is locked. Friends, mutuals, old mentors. He asked them to talk sense into me, to warn me I was overreaching. He told them I'd gone cold. He was right about that last part. One of those friends, Darren Wu, called and said he'd like to buy me a coffee. I picked a diner instead and ordered pancakes so the table would be sticky and honest. Darren said the things decent men say when they're trying to referee a fight they don't understand. You two built something together. There has to be a middle. I let him finish, then showed him a single transcript from the video. Not the images, not the sound. Just the words where Adam and Vicky decided how to move my clients out from under me. Darren stared at the paper a long time. I didn't know it was like that. No one did, I said. That's how it worked. He folded the page carefully. You want me to pick a side. I want you to see what side you're already on if you call this a misunderstanding. He didn't try to hug me when we stood. He just said, I'm sorry, and left with his hands in his pockets like a boy who'd been caught cheating on an exam he didn't need to cheat on. Another domino anchored. Taking their reputation wasn't gloating. It was arithmetic again. Adam's particular magic depended on borrowed credibility. Mine, the company's, the marriage he wore like a ring light. Remove the sources and the glow dims by itself. He spoke at 2 panels that month. He wasn't invited to a third. A podcast episode we recorded together a year earlier was quietly archived by the host. A leadership award he'd been shortlisted for named someone else without explanation. None of it was my phone call. It was the calculus of consequence doing its work. As for Vicky, I didn't have to make a single call. People talk, especially the kind of people who crave the dinner parties she curated like museum exhibits. They asked where I was. She said I was busy. They asked if Adam would be at the charity gala. She laughed too loudly and said, "He's swamped with a new project." The exhale after that sentence was the sound of a balloon losing air. Her parents stopped attending those things. When someone asked Helen why, she said, "We are focusing on family." And the quiet that followed was a door shutting gently. But, take everything they thought was theirs. Had one item left that did not solve itself: each other. I hadn't seen them together since the night I watched the video. For weeks, that absence had worked like bleach. I could not scrub it onto the image enough. Then Adam forced a meeting. He did it by showing up at my office at 6:17 a.m. Slipping past a sleepy receptionist, and waiting in my chair with his feet on my desk like a boy playing at being a man. He wore the kind of suit you rent when your tailor is in court. "Morning, partner," he said. "We're not partners," I said, and shut the door. He took his feet down but didn't stand. "We both know this is theater," he said. "You get your victory lap. You tell your board you saved the day. Meanwhile, those clients are loyal to me. You won a vote, you didn't change gravity." "Gravity changed the day you mistook me for a satellite," I said. "What do you want?" He spread his hands. "A path. You step back from this injunction nonsense. I take Peercrest live with non-overlapping accounts. You keep the lumbering behemoth. I take the growth. Non-overlapping," I said. "So, none of the ones you promised Vicky you'd lift." The flicker across his face was the first honest thing he'd shown me in months. "Word gets around," I said. He stood then, leaning forward, that old gleam trying to climb back into his eyes. "Ethan, you're not built for this. You're a good man, and good men don't win the long game. Let me go, and you get your precious stability." "I have stability," I said. "I also have a long memory." He walked past me, paused at the door, and turned. "What if I told you she didn't mean to hurt you? I tell you that your stories are worse without an audience," I said, and opened the door for him. He left. I went to the window and stared at the yard where 2 trucks were backing into bays while a spotter flapped his arms like a tired bird. The sight calmed me. Metal obeys physics. People think they're exceptions. They didn't end that week, Adam and Vicky. Most affairs don't end on a morals timeline. They fray. Vicky tried one last script on me that Sunday, sitting at our kitchen table with her hands around a mug she didn't drink from. "I made a mistake," she said, eyes rehearsed. "He said things. I was scared you would leave me for the company. I wanted to feel chosen." "You were chosen," I said. "Every day until the day you gave the choice back." She stared at the mug. "Can we fix it?" "No," I said. "We can end it kindly. That's all I have left." She looked up then, really looked, and saw the truth I'd been living. There was no anger left to burn. Just straight lines and signatures. We settled the house that week. She moved into a rental near her parents'. Helen texted me a thank you I didn't deserve. Adam texted her 2 nights later. She didn't answer. 3 nights after that, Elena changed the locks on the place he'd been using as a crash pad. He stayed at a hotel paid for by a friend who would categorize the expense under charity on his taxes. Phase 2 wasn't fireworks. It was the slow, professional unsoldering of a false story from my life. By the end of the month, clients were still with us, reputation had recalibrated around what was true, and each other was no longer a single phrase. It was a question the 2 of them would have to answer without a stage manager. I didn't feel triumphant. I felt cleared. I took my notebook out on the porch that night, the same one with the 2 columns I'd written under the worst light of my life. Under Phase 3, I wrote 3 words I hadn't been able to afford before: hire, train, breathe. Then, beneath that, a 4th, hope. It felt like breaking a fast. Revenge has its own gravity. At first you push it, and then it begins to pull you. Phase 2 had left Adam and Vicky exposed. Clients were gone, their reputation in tatters, their story losing its audience. But exposed doesn't mean destroyed. People can survive on scraps if you let them. I didn't plan to let them. Phase 3 began not with a strike but with patience. The kind of patience that makes predators win. Adam still tried to appear relevant, and Vicky still tried to act like her world wasn't collapsing, but the cracks widened each day. They didn't need me to hammer them, they needed me to wait until they begged the world to look away. Meanwhile, I rebuilt. I hired 3 new managers, promoted Noah, and gave the staff something they hadn't had in months: certainty. Paychecks arrived early one week. Lunch was catered the next. I walked the floor daily, not as a ghost of an owner, but as a man reminding his people that he saw them. Operations ran smooth, trucks left on time. For the first time since betrayal burned my veins, I felt steady. But revenge doesn't let go that easily. It started with a call from Cassandra Hale. "Ethan," she said, her voice low. "Adam reached out again. He claims you're freezing him out illegally. He asked me to testify." "What did you tell him?" "That I don't testify for men who mistake arrogance for leadership." She paused. "But you should know, he's desperate. Desperate men take shortcuts." She was right. And shortcuts were Adam's specialty. The next week, Noah brought me proof. Adam had approached 2 mid-level employees at Northbridge, offering them equity in Peercrest if they carried over client data. They refused, but they also gave me the texts. That was my moment. Amara filed for contempt of court. Adam had broken the injunction. Judges don't like when you waste their ink. The ruling came down fast: fines, threat of jail time if repeated, and a permanent black mark in every database that mattered. Adam's startup went from a shaky bluff to a corpse overnight. Vicky tried to hide, but whispers traveled faster than any truck I'd ever dispatched. Her parents stopped answering her calls. Her friends canceled invitations quietly, then not so quietly. Even her younger brother, who once idolized her, asked me for coffee. He didn't say much, just, "I'm sorry she chose that path." When family abandons you, society doesn't need instructions to follow. She sent me a message one night: "Can we talk?" Just once. "Please." I stared at it, my thumb hovering. A part of me wanted to answer. To ask why. To break her with the truth of my pain. But another part, the stronger part, realized she was already broken. My silence was louder than anything I could write. I deleted the message. Adam, however, wasn't quiet. He stormed. He shouted. He called journalists, hoping someone would print his side. No one cared. He begged ex-clients to meet him. Just for coffee. None showed. Finally, he began turning on Vicky. I know because she left a voicemail, her voice ragged, saying, "He blames me for everything now. Says I ruined his chances. Says if it wasn't for me, he'd still have his crown." Ethan. I don't even know who he is anymore. But she did know. So did I. He had always been this man. She just didn't notice until the mask fell. Phase 3 was nearly complete. I had taken their clients, their reputation, their family, and now their trust in each other. They had nothing left to hold on to. But I wasn't finished. Revenge isn't complete until you remind yourself who you are without it. So I did the hardest thing I'd done since that night in my office. I stopped watching them. I stopped waiting for the next crack. I turned back to my life, my company, my people. Weeks passed. Months. Adam's name disappeared from every feed I followed. Vicky became another shadow in a small town. Their story had no stage left. And one evening, while watching trucks roll out against the sunset, I realized the strangest truth of all. I didn't care anymore. Revenge had been my fuel. Now it was ashes. But ashes can still grow something new. Peace doesn't come all at once. It comes in fragments, like light seeping through blinds after a stormy night. For weeks, I thought about them less. Adam and Vicky became silhouettes in my memory, outlines of people I used to know. I focused on rebuilding Peercrest and slowly on rebuilding myself. But just as the tide pulls back before it's gone, they tried one last time to return. Adam showed up at my office. Unannounced. Desperate. Security called me, said, "He's in the lobby." I told them to let him wait. 15 minutes passed before I walked out. He was sitting hunched, a shadow of the man who once strutted through boardrooms. His suit looked borrowed. His eyes were bloodshot. "Ethan," he started, his voice raw. I need your help." The audacity nearly made me laugh. "You need my help," I repeated flatly. He nodded. I lost everything. Investors, clients. Vicky's gone. I don't even have a place to stay. Just give me something. A chance. Please. For a brief second, I saw the partner I had once trusted, the man who had laughed beside me at late-night strategy sessions. But the image shattered quickly. He wasn't that man. Maybe he never had been. I gave you everything once, I said coldly. And you stole from me. From us. There's nothing left to give. His mouth opened as if to argue, but no words came. Finally, he lowered his head. Security escorted him out. That was the last time I saw Adam. Vicky's attempt was softer. She sent me a letter. Handwritten. Pages of apologies, regrets, explanations. I didn't read past the first paragraph. At the end, she wrote, "If there's any humanity left in you, meet me at Willow Park. Sunday, 6 p.m. I went. Not for her. For myself. To see the final chapter close. She was already there, sitting on a bench, clutching the letter's copy in her hands. Her once flawless posture slouched, her elegance replaced by exhaustion. When she saw me, she stood quickly. Ethan. Thank you for coming. I didn't answer. I just waited. Tears welled in her eyes. I made the biggest mistake of my life. I lost you. I lost my family. I lost everything because I thought I was chasing happiness. But all I found was emptiness. Her voice cracked. I don't expect forgiveness. I just wanted you to know I'm sorry. For the first time in months, I felt something stir inside me. Not love. Not anger. Something gentler, like pity. But pity isn't the same as trust. And pity doesn't rewrite betrayal. I believe you're sorry, I said. But sorry doesn't change what you did. And it doesn't rebuild what you destroyed. She covered her face, shoulders shaking. I know. We stood in silence, the air between us heavy with things unsaid. Finally, I added, "This is the last time we see each other, Vicky. I hope you find your way. But not with me." Then I turned and walked away, leaving her sobs behind me. Something shifted that night. I realized revenge had reached its true end. Not in their destruction, but in my ability to walk away. To look at them broken and know I didn't need to break them anymore. That was freedom. Peercrest thrived. Clients returned in full force, stronger than before. The team worked with a sense of loyalty I had never seen. They knew I had fought not just for myself but for them. Marcus, my right hand, pulled me aside one day and said, "You know, boss, you're different now. Sharper. But also, lighter. Like you finally put something down." He was right. I had. And life, once more, began to look like mine again. Months later, I met someone new. Not in some grand, dramatic way, just at a coffee shop downtown. Her name was Elena Brooks. She laughed easily, asked real questions, and didn't know or care about the drama that had once consumed me. We talked for hours. And when I walked away, I realized I hadn't thought of Adam or Vicky the entire time. That was when I knew I was healed. Revenge had carried me through fire. But love, new, unexpected love, was what would carry me beyond it. Happy endings aren't handed to you. They're built, brick by brick, choice by choice. For the first time in years, my life felt like it was mine again. The storm had passed. The ghost of betrayal no longer haunted my every step. And yet, the scars remained, and I chose to wear them as reminders. Elena became a part of my world slowly, naturally. We met for coffee again, then dinner. Conversations turned into long walks into weekends. She never asked about Adam or Vicky. When she finally did, I told her the truth, but not every detail. She didn't need the ugliness. What mattered was that betrayal had happened, and I had survived it. One evening she looked at me and said, "You know, Ethan, you don't have to carry all that weight forever." I smiled faintly. Maybe. But I'd rather carry it than forget it. Forgetting is dangerous. It makes you blind. She nodded. Then let me help carry it. For the first time, I realized healing didn't mean erasing. It meant sharing. Peercrest soared. We expanded into 3 new cities, landed government contracts, and built a reputation that outshined even my wildest dreams. Reporters who once sniffed at rumors of collapse now praised our resilient resurgence. And through it all, I felt something I hadn't in years: pride. Not the hollow pride Adam had chased. Real pride, the kind that comes when you rebuild from nothing. Marcus pulled me aside one night during a celebration and raised his glass. To survival, he said. I added, to loyalty. We clinked glasses, and for once, the toast didn't feel like armor. It felt like truth. What of Adam and Vicky? I never saw Adam again. Word reached me through whispers: a failed move to another state, odd jobs, a stint in rehab, then silence. He became a cautionary tale in business circles, a name people invoked when warning against arrogance. Vicky. I heard she moved back in with a cousin, tried to work retail, struggled to keep afloat. Sometimes she wrote blog posts about learning from mistakes. I didn't read them. She, too, faded into the background noise of a world that moved on without her. That was their ending. Not tragic enough for headlines, not triumphant enough for redemption. Just forgotten? And that, perhaps, was the truest punishment of all. My ending was different. Elena and I built a life together. Not perfect, no life is, but real. Filled with laughter, small arguments, shared coffee mugs, and plans for the future. We married quietly, no spectacle, just family and close friends who had stood by me through fire. As I looked at her across the aisle that day, I realized the most important truth of all. Revenge may have freed me, but love saved me. Sometimes, late at night, I still remember the betrayal, the rage, the fall. But the memories no longer cut, they only remind me that I walked through darkness and found light again. That I lost everything, and rebuilt better. That people tried to break me, and in doing so, made me stronger than I ever imagined. Happy endings aren't about forgetting the past. They're about writing a future that makes the past irrelevant. And that's exactly what I did. This is my story. Not of betrayal. Not of revenge. But of survival, rebirth, and love. The end.